وبه قال أخبرنا شعيب بن شعيب ابن إسحاق قال حدثنا عبد الوهاب بن سعيد قال حدثنا شعيب قال حدثنا الأوزاعي قال حدثني يحيى بن أبي كثير قال أخبرني محمد بن عبد الرحمن قال أخبرني جابر بن عبد الله أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مر برجل في كل شجرة يرش عليه الماء قال ما بال صاحبكم هذا؟ قالوا يا رسول الله صائم. قال إنه ليس من البر أن تصوموا في السفر وعليكم برخصة الله التي رخص لكم فاقبلوها. وبه قال أخبرنا محمود بن خالد قال حدثنا الفريابي قال حدثنا الأوزاعي قال حدثني يحيى قال أخبرني محمد بن عبد الرحمن قال حدثني من سمع جابرا نحوه ذكر الاختلاف على علي بن المبارك. وبه قال أخبرنا إسحاق بن إبراهيم قال أنبأنا وكيع قال حدثنا علي بن المبارك عن يحيى بن أبي كثير عن محمد بن عبد الرحمن بن ثوبان عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ليس من البر الصيام في السفر عليكم برخصة الله عز وجل فاقبلوها. وبه قال أخبرنا محمد بن المثنى عن عثمان بن عمر قال أنبأنا علي بن المبارك عن يحيى عن محمد بن عبد الرحمن عن رجل عن جابر أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ليس من البر الصيام في السفر.
And in the narrations and reading, Bismillah, reciting the book of the chapter of fasting in the book of the Sunnah of Imam al-Nisa'i, the collection of hadith. And they're in the chapter of traveling and fasting. The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says that it is not from obedience to God to fast whilst you are traveling. In another narration, that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, went to Mecca in the year of the great opening, and he fasted. Then the people fasted, and then it came back to him, and then the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah, was continuous in his fast. So the Messenger of Allah asked for everyone, as he saw it was difficult for everyone to be continuously fasting these supererogatory or voluntary fasts. He then broke his fast, and some people remained fasting, and the rest opened their fast. And in the narration, Abu Hurairah says,
فقال إنا صائمان وقال ارحلوا لصاحبيكم اعملوا لصاحبيكم. وبه قال أخبرنا عمران بن يزيد قال حدثنا محمد بن شعيب قال أخبرني الأوزاعي عن يحيى أنه
Another narration of Abu Salama, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says, as the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah, was having lunch one day with Abu Bakr and Umar, individuals came in and who the Messenger of Allah requested them to eat along with him, and they said that they are fasting. And then he continued
وبذكر وضع الصيام عن المسافر والاختلاف على الأوزاعي في خبر عمرو بن أمية فيه. وبه قال أخبرني عبدة بن عبد الرحيم عن محمد بن شعيب قال حدثنا الأوزاعي عن يحيى عن أبي سلمة قال أخبرني عمرو بن أمية الضمري
اللهم صل وسلم عليه
الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سفر وقال أنتظر الغداء يا أبا أمية فقلت إني صائم وقال تعالى ادنو مني حتى أخبرك عن المسافر إن الله عز وجل وضع عنه الصيام ونصف الصلاة. وأخبرني عمرو بن عثمان قال حدثني الوليد عن الأوزاعي قال حدثني يحيى بن أبي كثير قال حدثني أبو قلابة قال حدثني جعفر بن عمرو بن أمية الضمري عن أبيه قال كذبت على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا تنتظر الغداء يا أبا أمية؟ قلت إني صائم. وقال تعالى أخبرك عن المسافر إن الله وضع عنه الصيام ونصف الصلاة. وبه قال أخبرنا إسحاق بن منصور قال أنبأنا أبو المغيرة قال حدثنا الأوزاعي عن يحيى عن أبي كلابة عن أبي المهاجر عن أبي أمية الضمري قال كذبت على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سفر فسلمت عليه، فلما ذهبت لأخرج قال انتظر الغداء يا أبا أمية. قلت إني صائم يا نبي الله. قال تعالى أخبرك عن المسافر إن الله تعالى وضع عنه الصيام ونصف الصلاة. وبه قال أخبرنا أحمد بن سليمان قال حدثنا موسى بن مروان قال حدثنا محمد بن حرب عن الأوزاعي قال أخبرني يحيى قال حدثني أبو كلابة قال حدثني أبو المهاجر قال حدثني أبو أمية يعني الضمرية أنه قدم على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر نحوه. قال أخبرني شعيب ابن إسحاق قال حدثنا عبد الوهاب قال حدثنا شعيب قال حدثني الأوزاعي قال حدثني يحيى قال حدثني أبو كلابة الجرمي أن أبا أمية الضمرية حدثهم أنه قدم على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال أنتظر الغداء يا أبا أمية صائم. قالته أخبرك عن المسافر إن الله وضع عنه الصيام ونصف الصلاة.
اللهم صل على صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وغافل عن ذكرك وذكره الغافلون. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وغافل عن ذكرك وذكره الغافلون. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وغافل عن ذكرك وذكره الغافلون. Habib praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who has sent us the revelation of his speech through the best of creation, and may peace and blessings upon the best of creation Muhammad and upon his companions and upon his family and upon his fathers and brothers from prophets and upon the angels and upon all the righteous slaves and upon their families and upon their companions, and that we ask Allah to make us to be from those and from amongst those, for Allah is the most merciful of the merciful and the most generous of the most generous. So Imam al-Nisa'i, may Allah be pleased with him, or may Allah have mercy upon him, in this chapter in relating to fasting for the individual or for the traveler. So the one who is fasting in the month of Ramadan or who is traveling in the month of Ramadan. And there was a hadith narrated by Darda. And mentioning the Khayra binti Hadrat, the first wife of Abu Darda, and the other one, which is no one required as Darda, which many people are narrate from. Whenever narrating from Darda, it is the second, which is the one who has most of the narrations of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon her, be upon him. The narrations of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She grew up as an orphan, and she was raised in her close family household, and then Abu Darda married her when she was older. And then he said that when he was seeking, she said, so he came to seek, Abu Darda came to seek her hand in marriage, and then he says, I'd like to seek your hand in marriage. And then she said, I would like to seek your hand in marriage for the afterlife, as you are requesting my hand in this life. So she narrates this hadith from Ka'ab ibn Asim, one of their companions. There's not many narrations. He's not really known for narrations. So he has one narration in Nisa'i and one narration in Ibn Majah. He hasn't been mentioned. Ka'ab ibn Asim, he hasn't been mentioned any of the other books of hadith. He says that I heard the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say that it is not from obedience to go to fast whilst you are traveling. meaning the completeness of obedience, worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting in whilst traveling, it is not something beloved, or it's not something good, and it's not something desirable to do. And majority of the scholars say that if he is going through difficulty in their travels, the way the author continues to go into further about these hadiths. So majority of the scholars say that this is only for the one who comes across hardships in his travel. So if someone will come across hardships in their travel, or harm, then it wouldn't be recommended for him, or it wouldn't be obedient for him to God to fast in that travel. And then the other scholars would mention, and then different opinions, that it is wajib upon him to fast unless it's difficult for him. But either way, the Jumhur, majority of the scholars, are on that it is permissible for him or for the individual to fast or to not fast if they are traveling. The times where the companions were traveling and the only one who was fasting would be the Prophet of Allah, and it would be maybe one of the companions in a military expedition. So this hadith indicates that fasting is permission granted for the people not required to be fasting, and it is also narrated in the Musannaf Abdul Razak, again from the same individual, Ka'ab bin Asim al-Ash'ari, who is from the people of Yemen, from one of the cities called Lamim. The authenticity of the hadith is authentic, but there is a difference of opinion. Is it the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, actually said these words, or is it that the companions narrated this and they narrated it in their actual accent? Because we know Yemenis in that time and where he was from would have a different accent in the way they pronounce certain words and how they structure their sentences. So they would, for example, there are times where in Yemen, in places even till now, that wherever there is alif and a lam, they would pronounce it as alif and a mim. And Ka'b bin Asim al-Ash'ari, he is from Zabid in Yemen, and he would also pronounce it as So there's a difference of opinion whether did the Messenger of Allah speak to Ka'ab according to his lahja, or is it because the Messenger of Allah would address the people, the Arabs, with their own different dialects according to whoever was there? So is it the Messenger of Allah who mentioned this hadith, or who mentioned these words according to the dialect of Ka'b al-Ahbar from Yemen, because he knew all the lahjas and the dialects, and he will be able to speak in all of them, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him? Or was it Ka'b al-Ahbar who heard these words from the Messenger of Allah and then narrated it thereon according to from his dialect? That would be the difference of opinion in this hadith, even though this is authentic. The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, would also speak to people. So within the Arabic language. So the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was familiar with all the different dialects in the Arabic language, and he wouldn't leave his speech, would always remain within the Arabic language. He didn't go to learn any of the other languages. And to summarize, This pronunciation, according to whichever dialect, has been or narrated. So it's possible that the Messenger of Allah said that it's not from from obedience to God to fast whilst traveling, but then it will be narrated here in Nisa'i with a difference in the Arabic terms.
الحديث الشريف المسألة جواز الصوم في السفر هذا الذي عليه.
So what it is that
من كان لا يتضرر بالصوم
whoever it doesn't come across extreme difficulties or harm for him to fast, then while he is traveling, then he shouldn't fast. And it'll be, but if he is not going to come across any difficulties or hardship whilst traveling, then it's best for him to continue his fast. But either way, it is permissible for him, whether he would be in a state of difficulty or not. It's permissible for him. But what's best is that if he won't come across any difficulty, if it's a smooth travel and it's an easy travel and it won't have any sort of hardship like the companions would, or those before us in traveling and being upon the backs of livestock for days. So if that's the case, where if they reach that much of difficulty, then they shouldn't fast. But if they won't receive that much difficulties and they won't be harmed by traveling and fasting at the same time, then it is better for them to fast.
فلهذا يقول انه خرج على سبب يقتصر عليه وخروجه على السبب ليس لا يدخل عموم اللفظ في القاعدة عند أهل الاصطلاح أن العبرة بعموم اللفظ اللي بخصوصه. هذا إذا كان اللفظ جاء عاما في سبب مخصوص لم تقترن بقرائن وأحوال تدل.
He goes into the different linguistical perspectives of this hadith
هذا ما ليس مثل فرق
in the Arabic language.
اللفظ هنا عام ولكن القرائن محيطة به من حواليه أن المراد به شان.
Even though that the term which is used in this hadith is an open term, that is not obedience to God to fast while you are traveling, but there are other indicators to suggest that it's not just so open, but there is a bit more detailed involved, and there's a few more things to consider in that, and we can't just leave it open. And this is the way language in the Arabic language in Arabic, how it would function. So you would have the open statement, but at the same time, because there are other indicators to prove that there is furthermore to this hadith, or there is furthermore to this opening, and there's conditions, or there are things which should be considered beforehand. So this also indicates that there is, even though it's the term is more open and general, but the point of it and what's extracted from it in the ruling would be that there is more specifics to the mas'ala here. So if they would find any difficulty in fasting, if they won't find any difficulty in fasting, then it's better for them to fast, to complete their fast. If they are or they will be harmed, then it wouldn't be good for them to fast. And there's opinion of some of the scholars that even if someone was to fast, there's an opinion that one of the scholars mentions that if someone was to fast whilst they are traveling, then it wouldn't be accepted. So it's not allowed to fast while you are traveling, as one of the scholars. But majority of the scholars and the Sahaba and the Tabi'een would say if he fasts, then he would be rewarded and it will be counted. And it's better for him to fast if he's not going to come across any harm or hardship, extreme difficulty in his travel. And it's better for him, if he won't come across it, then it's better for him to fast. But if it is difficult for him or he'll come across extreme difficulties in their fast, then he is required to not fast on that day.
وإن كان مشقة شديدة ما يجوز أن يصوم في حضر ولا في سواء كان مريض أو كان مسافر عنه. لا إله إلا الله. فإذا أكثر العلماء ومنهم
So Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i and Imam Abu Hanifa, that fasting is better for someone who is able to do so, and it won't be difficult for them to fast in traveling. And some of the other scholars will say it would be better for them to not fast. If they fast, then they wouldn't be required to make up that fast. And if they fast, that fast will be accepted. So the question here, the particular question here is the difference of opinion between that one scholar who mentioned that it wouldn't be accepted compared to the rest of the other scholars. If someone fasts, it is counted, contrary to the scholar who mentioned that it wouldn't be counted. All the other scholars are under the impression that it would be counted. What the only difference of opinion is what's better for him to do so. Is it better for him if he won't have any difficulty? So that'll be the difference of opinion regarding to this topic. And then a man said to Ibn Umar that I am able to fast even when I am traveling. And he said, I am able to fast. He addresses Ibn Umar and mentions that he is able to fast, and he was discouraged from doing so by Ibn Umar.
سفره في بدر وسفره إلى مكة في الفتح وهو في رمضان وكان صام أكثر الأيام كما يأتي عنه. هذا يقول العلة التي من أجلها قيل ذلك فأورد بعد ذلك هذا الحديث.
So this hadith, which was then narrated, which is also in Sahih Bukhari and other hadith collections, that it is that Muhammad ibn Abdurrahman bin Sa'ad went to Jabir. So that's Muhammad bin Amr bin Hassan narrates this happened and mentions the difference of opinion in its chain of transmission.
كما أشار إليه المؤلف عليه رحمة الله تبارك وتعالى
They narrate from us a hadith where they saw people gathered together around one man. And in another narration, they come across a man who is under the shade of a tree and they are pouring water on him. So they are all gathered around him. And it is also in a different narration that they saw a man who was weak due to traveling. And another narration that there was a man who was traveling and it was difficult for him to fast. So then he was told then someone told the Messenger of Allah about this man who became weak due to fasting while he was traveling. Then they told the Messenger of Allah. The Messenger of Allah told them to go and tell that man to stop fasting and to eat. And it is also another narration where the Messenger of Allah saw an individual standing in the sun. He said that this person vowed to stand in the sun, and while he's fasting, he won't sit down. He will remain standing up, and he will remain in the sun to sort of make that reward of the fast more deep. And the Messenger of Allah discouraged him from doing so, to put yourself into adverse difficulties like that. And then there's another narration where there was a man who was struggling to fast while he was traveling. So the Messenger of Allah told him that this is not from obedience to fast. And in brackets, as the scholars would mention, if this is causing you huge difficulties. And the Messenger of Allah encourages his companions to accept where Allah allows leeway or Allah allows for the individual's permission, such as shortening and combining prayers when traveling, and also not fasting during travels. So the Messenger of Allah says, accept this permission granted by Allah for this. So, and they say that it will be disliked for you to some scholars will say that it is disliked to refuse this permission which Allah has given you, so that it will be disliked to extend those prayers while you are traveling, to not combine them while you are traveling, and also to not fast when you're traveling. So dislike. So it's good to take off that permission. But if it won't cause you significant harm, then it will be advised, or it's sunnah, or it would be better to fast. And Imam al-Nasa'i continues to explain the differences and the detailed differences between the chain of transmission and the scholars, and then the study of the chain of the transmission. So he's mentioning that there's a few different narrations that Imam al-Nasa'i indicates too, and then where the difference of opinion is the name of of a person in the chain of transmission in the hadith which is yet to come. So he mentions that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, went to Mecca in the year of the opening of Mecca. So then he fasted, and he was continuously fasting, and everyone else continued to fast because the Messenger of Allah was fasting, and they want to follow him. And the Messenger of Allah, someone tells him that people are struggling to continue this fast, and it wasn't in the month of Ramadan. So then the Messenger of Allah ordered them to break their fast, and as he also broke his fast, and majority of the people broke their fast, and there were also people who chose to continue their fast. So in this battle of the opening of Mecca, that the Messenger of Allah wasn't fasting at the beginning was only due to the first accepting the permission, or the leeway granted by Allah to not fast while traveling, because he was in Medina and traveled to Mecca, and also accepting that permission, and also what would be easier for the ummah. So he stood in front of the companions and he drank water, so to make it easier for them. So then so here it is that so then here where the hadith is mentioned that it is not obedience to God to fast while you are traveling, some of the scholars would mention that this is in referring to the hadith where the Messenger of Allah told them to break their fast during the opening of Mecca, and that if they continue to hold their fast, it will be disobedience to what the Messenger of Allah has asked them to do and requested and ordered them to do. So this is the time where the Messenger of Allah was almost majority of his travels between Mecca and Medina, he was fasting. So when he was told, the Messenger of Allah was told that people are finding it difficult to hold up to the fasts, then the Messenger himself, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, opened his fast in that day. He asked people to bring water to him.
وإن ابتدأ في الصوم، لكن ابتدأ في الصوم وهو مسافر، ما هو في الحضر كما هو الحال في الواقع هنا. لكن ولو استهل هلال رمضان وهو في الحضر ما لأنه دخل عليه رمضان وهو في المدينة صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل أن يسافر، استمر في الصوم. لكن هل نفس اليوم إذا كان طلع عليه الفجر وهو قام يسافر بعد هذا، لا، هذا هو محل الاختلاف، والجمهور قالوا لا يفطر لأن هذا اليوم قد وجب.
So the important part of consideration, whether it's obligatory upon you to even fast for the one who is traveling, would be that he travels before the day or before sunrise, because if he is already traveling, then it wouldn't be obligatory upon him to fast that day, because the moment where it becomes obligatory, which is at sunrise, he was already traveling and he was away. So majority of the scholars, they would Imam But if an individual travels after Fajr or after the sunrise throughout the day, majority of the scholars would say that it is not, unless it will be extremely difficult, then he should, or it is wajib for him to continue his fast unless there's going to be extreme difficulty. So the Messenger of Allah drank water and everyone was watching, and he ordered them to to break their fast. And then the Messenger of Allah was made aware of some of the companions who chose not to break their fast. And then the Messenger of Allah indicated towards that wasn't the obedience to God if fasting while traveling, that they rejected the amr or the commandment of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. And the companions of the Messenger of Allah would constantly try to follow the Messenger of Allah and to copy the Messenger of Allah. So whatever the Messenger of Allah would do, they would follow the Messenger of Allah in it. So the Messenger of Allah says that Allah loves that you accept the eases which He grants you in traveling and other areas. The same way He loves that you approach His worship or what He has encouraged or made permissible or made obligatory. And it's narrated that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Again, Habib mentions that hadith again. And it's also another narration. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says, and in Bayhaqi as well, that Ibn Umar narrated that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah loves that you accept His permissions that He grants and what He gives. The same way He dislikes that you act upon that which displeases Him or what is unlawful. And there are many different narrations with this in this hadith.
يعني بالصيام حقكم بتتعللون عن القيام بالمهام، بيقولون خلوا الناس يجون يرحلوا لكم، خلوا الناس يجون يخدمونكم بسبب الصوم، فكأنه محبة منهم أن لا يتعرضوا لمثل ذلك. فقال إن صيما قال ارحلوا لصاحبيكم اعملوا لصاحبيكم.
So the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that there were, after one of the military expeditions that they would have, and they would return after arrival, there'll be some who would be fasting and some who wouldn't be fasting. So those who were fasting, they would seek shade under a tree and they would sleep. And then the others who weren't fasting would go and they would prepare what the fasting would need to break their fast or their iftar. And the Messenger of Allah praises those who weren't fasting in how they were serving those who were fasting. And the Messenger of Allah says they have gone with the great portions of reward. Now they're reading through Bahjat al-Mahafil, the next book, Rawha.
الظهر مع الظهر يعني اسقيه ايوه.
فلما اصبحنا اذا عبد الرحمن الفزاري قد اغار على ظهر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فاستاقه اجمع وقتل راعيه يا رباح خذ هذا الفرس أبلغه طلحة بن عبيد الله وأخبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن المشركين قد أغاروا على سرحه. قال ثم قمت على أكمة فاستقبلت المدينة فناديت يا صباحا، ثم خرجت في آثار القوم أرميهم بالنبل وأرتجز وأقول أنا ابن الأكوع واليوم يوم الرضع، فألحق رجلا منهم فأصب سهما في رحله حتى خلص نصل السهم إلى كعبه. قال قلت خذها وأنا ابن أكوع واليوم يوم الرضع. قال فوالله ما زلت أرميهم وأعبر بهم، فإذا رجع إلي فارس أتيت شجرة فجلست في أصلها ثم رميته فعقرت به حتى إذا تضايق الجبل فدخلوا في تضايقه علوت الجبل فجعلت أرديهم بالحجارة، ما زلت كذلك حتى ما
So he continues to recall the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him.
ولا يستخفون عليه آراما من الحجارة يعرفها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه حتى أتوا متضايقين من ثنية فإذا هم قد أتاهم فلان من بدر الفزاري
mentioning completing a story that was from the seerah of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him.
قالوا لقينا من هذا البرح والله ما فارقنا منذ غلس يرمينا حتى انتزع كل شيء في أيدينا. قال فليقم إليه نفر منكم 4. قال فصعد إلي منهم 4 في الجبل. قال فلما أنوا من الكلام قال قلت هل تعرفونني؟ قالوا لا. ومن أنت؟ قلت أنا سلمة بن الأكوع والذي كرم وجه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، لا أطلب رجلا منكم إلا أدرك ولا يطلبني قال أحدهم أنا أظن. قال فرجعوا فما برحت من مكاني حتى رأيت فوارس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتخللون الشجر. قال فإذا أولهم الأخرم الأسدي وعلى إثره أبو قتادة الأنصاري وعلى إثره المقداد بن الأسود الكندي. قال فأخذت بعنان الأخرم. قال فولوا مدبرين. قال قلت يا أخرم احذرهم لا يقتطعوك حتى تلحق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه. قال يا سلمان إن كنت تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وتعلم أن الجنة حق والنار حق فلا تحل بيني وبين الشهادة. قال فخليته فالتقى هو وعبد الرحمن. قال فعقر بعبد الرحمن فرسه فطعنه عبد الرحمن فقتله وتحول على فرسه. ولحق أبو قتادة فارس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بعبد الرحمن فطعنه فقتله. هو الذي كرم وجه محمد. لتبعتهم أعدوا على رجلي حتى ما أرى ورائي من أصحاب محمد ولا غبارهم شيئا حتى يعتقوا قبل غروب الشمس إلى شعب فيه ماء يقال له ذو قرد ليشربوا منه وهم عطاش. قال فنظروا إلي أعدوا وراءهم فحلأتهم عنه فما ذاقوا منه قطرة. قال ويخرجون فيشتدون في ثنية. قال فأعدوا عليهم فألحق رجلا منهم فأصبوا بسهم في نقض كتفيه. قال قلت خذها وأنا ابن الأكوع واليوم يوم الرضع. قال يا ثكلته أمه أكوعه بكرة. قال قلت نعم يا عدو الله أكوعك بكرة. قال وأرادوا فرسين على الثنية. قال فجئت بهما أسوقهما إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال ولحقني عامر يعني عمه بسطيحة فيها لبن وسطيحة فيها ماء فتوضأت وشربت. ثم أتيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو على الماء الذي حلأتهم عنه، فإذا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد أخذ تلك الإبل وكل شيء استنقذته من المشركين وكل رمح وبردة. وإذا بلال نحر ناقة من الإبل الذي استنقذته من القوم، وإذا هو يشوي لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من كبدها وسنامها. قال قلت يا رسول الله خلني فأنتخب من القوم 100 رجل فأتبع القوم فلا يبقى منهم مخبر إلا قتلته. فضحك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى بدت نواجذه في ضوء النار، فقال يا سلمة أتراك كنت فاعلا؟ قلت نعم الذي أكرمك. قال إنهم الآن يقرون في أرض غطفان. قال فجاء رجل من غطفان قال نحر لهم فلانا جزورا، فلما كشفوا جلدها رأوا غبارا فقالوا أتاكم القوم فولوا هاربين. فلما أصبحنا قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كان خير فرساننا اليوم أبو قتادة وخير رجالتنا سلمة. قالوا ثم أعطاني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سهمين، سهم الفارس وسهم الراجل، جمعهما لي جميعا، ثم أردفني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وراءه على العضباء راجعين إلى المدينة. قال ابن عباس صلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة الخوف بذي قرد، رواه البخاري. واستشهد في هذه الغزاة وقاص بن مجزر المدلجي، وبعث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد ذلك أخاه علقمة طالبا بذلك.
So in this battle, Habib mentions the battle of Ghari. It was a strange battle. The strange was that Salama ibn al-Aqwa and with Abi Qatada and Salah, the occurrence between them. And it is mentioned that this is the riwayah of Imam Muslim, which we've just read through in this regarding this expedition, that Salama ibn al-Aqwa says that we came to Medina from Hudaybiyah, and then the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, we left with the Messenger of Allah, and his knight was Talha. So they're trying to seek water for their camels. So one of the mushrikeen comes to the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in which they were
الظهر كله استاقل لقاح النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وقتل الراعي وحمل معه الإبل.
So then the individual started attacking the companions, him along with the group of people. So then
الله أن المشركين قد أغاروا على سرحه ولو قمت على كما استقبلت المدينة يا صباحا نداهم إذا الاستعداد إذا حصل شيء.
So then the companions within themselves made the Messenger of Allah aware, and they sent Abdurrahman and Fazari and companions. They took the camel of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. They went back to go and make the Muslims aware of what's happening. So then one of those who were attacking followed the companions, and he struck them with an arrow. So I am the son of and then they continue to throw throw arrows at them, and then as they were returning and they would find these different these attackers, they would stop and they would climb. At times they would climb a tree, and then they would stand on top of the tree, and then he would say he would throw an arrow, and he would say, "Take it, you've received one from the son of Rudda'i, the son of the son of Abdurrahman." So he's mentioning himself. So then they continued their path. Anyone who and they were all trying to, and all this they're trying to protect the camel of the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. So So this throughout the whole day, there was a continuous pursuit.
الإبل اللي معهم أخذ سرقوا على النبي رجعوا يلقون الرماح حقهم يتخففون من شان يجرون من وراء هذا السريع الجري اللي يمشي وراهم ويحطون من رماحهم ويحطون من متاعهم ويحطون من دقيقهم يرمون وهو يمشي وراهم عليه رضوان الله تعالى. يقول
It's a continuous. They
وهم في حربهم ومشيهم ألقوا 30 بردة و30 رمح يخففون على أنفسهم.
So in the time where this happened, they received, they found, or the attackers or the perpetrators were ended up dropping everything that they were traveling with to make it easier for them to flee. So then they dropped 30 cloaks and 10 spears, and they kept dropping everything that they could just so that it can make them quicker in their pursuit or in their fleeing away from the companions of the Messenger of Allah. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him.
يطارد نحن طول اليوم ونحن عدد كامل ما قدرنا عليه لقينا البرح والله ما فارقنا منذ غلس يرمينا من بكرة الصباح وهو قفانا إلى الآن حتى انتزع كل شيء في أيدينا. قم إليه منكم نفر 4 قاموا 4 جابوا قربوا من الجبل قال لما كانوا من الكلام يسمعون صوتي قالوا انتم قلت هل تعرفونني.
So then once they get away from the companions, they come to sit down to eat food after the exhaustion from traveling and running away from the companions. And so they sat down, and then an individual came in from the Fazaris, and then he said, what is this that I've seen and that has happened? And they said, we today have come across we found we went to attack the companions of the Messenger of Allah, the companions of Muhammad, and then we ended up fleeing from them, and they kept on throwing or striking us or arching their bows, their arrows at us, till we had to drop everything which was in our hands, in our possession, so that we could just get away from them. Then he said, okay, then 4 of you go and go to this mountain, and in this mountain to wait or to
ولوا مدبرين قلت يا أخرم احذرهم لا يقتطعوك حتى تلحق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأصحابه. قال يا سلمة إن كنت تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وتعلم من الجنة حق والنار حق لا تحل بيني وبين شهادة. ما هو رد قال الرجل سبيل النبي بيجي والصحابة والجماعة بيقتلونك. قال أنت تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر لا تحل بيني وبين الشهادة. تركه ودخل عليه رضوان الله تبارك وتعالى معلوم. قال خليته التقاه هو عبد الرحمن ده الرئيس حق ذولا. قال قرب عبد الرحمن فرس. قام عبد الرحمن وضرب هذا سيدنا الصحابي وقتله. أول على فرس الصحابي وشله. لحق أبو قتادة فارس النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عبد الرحمن طعنه وقتله رد الفرس. والذي كرم وجه محمد لتبعتهم أعدوا على رجلي حتى ما أرى ورائي من أصحاب محمد ولا غبارهم شيء. فارين فايزين خايفين فازعين وهو جرى من كثرة الجري ما عاد شاف الصحابة من وراء والنبي من طول المسافة اللي بينه وبينهم. قال حتى يعدلوا قبل غروب الشمس إلى شعب فيه ماء قعدوا بيشربون من الماء. قال فنظروا إلي أعدوا وراهم فسحوا في الشرب ما قاموا من عند الماء. قال حلأتهم عن يعني صرفتهم عن راحوا ما ذاقوا منه قطرة ولا واحد منهم شرب شيء. شد فزعوا من سلمة بن الأكوع. قالوا يخرجون يشتدون في ثنية. قال أعدوا عليهم ألحق رجل منهم أصكه بسهم في نوض كتفيه، قلت خذها وانا ابن اكوعي واليوم يوم ردك. كل امه يقول واتكل امه ياه، وذاك يقول اكوع بكره حق الفجر وذا اللي بعد اكوع. قال قلت له نعم يا عدو الله، اكوعك بكره من حق الصباح هذا واللي معك. قالوا وعدوا فرسين على الثنيه، جيت بهما اسوق من فرسهم تركوهم وراحوا. قال وجيت بهن الى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، لحقني عامر معه سطيحه فيها مذقه لبن وسطيحه فيها ماء، توضأت وشربت وجيت لعند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. النبي الى الماء الذي حل القوم عنه ما قالوا، عد النبي هناك والصحابه يشربون. اخذت تلك الابل كلها وكل شيء استنقذ.
So when everything was recovered from those who were attacking the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, they end up Bilal ibn Rabah ends up slaughtering one of the livestock, and then
اختار منهم 100 واتبع القوم، لا يبقى منهم مخبر الا قتلته، ما عاد بخلي لهم خبر. قال فضحك صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى بدات نواجذه في ظهر. قال يا سلمة أتراك كنت فاعلا؟ قلت نعم والذي أكرمك. قال له صلى الله عليه وسلم إنهم الآن يقرون في أرض غطفان، دخلوا حدود أرض غطفان يقرون، هناك واحد ذبح لهم وهم جالسين مشان الضيافة. خلاص يعني اتركوا.
Then Bilal ibn Rabah ends up grilling food for the for the companions from the liver and from the hump of the camel. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, he says, allow me and I will continue and I will find, I will select with me 100 people from ourselves who will go and we will follow those fazaris or those who attacked us, and there will never remain any one of them except that we that we kill them. The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, laughs and he says, "Oh Salama, he says, I see that you are active," and he says, "Yes," and then he says, and the Messenger of Allah then discourages him from doing so, and then he says that that they will continue across the lands in a state of defeat. So he encouraged him to leave. And then there's a man who came to the Messenger of Allah. There's a man who came from that city that they were going back, which is Ghatfan.
كانت مكافأته الثانية لما قام بهذه العملية الكبيرة، قام عمل جيش كامل وهو فرد وحده، صلح عمل جيش وهزم جيش كامل عليه رضوان الله. خذها وأنا ابن أكوعي واليوم يوم الرضع.
The statement when then they come again to then to retrieve some of their belongings, and
والله أكوعك من بكرة.
no. He continues to proceeds to the next book, the book of Majmu' by Imam al-Nawawi. So it said that it is not permissible to fast on the day of doubt, which is the day before the month of Ramadan, where there is a difference of opinion. Then it is upon him to do expiation of that fast in 2 different opinions. And Qadi Abu Tayyib says that it is disliked, and it has been recorded by the individual of Hawi in the method of Imam Shafi'i. And the second opinion is that it is not disliked to fast on that day, and this is the opinion of Mutawalli and majority of the scholars. And that Ibn Sabagh mentions in his book that Qadi Tayyib that it is disliked, but it would still count. And then, but so it is against the qiyas of one of the, if it is permissible, that it is permissible for him to fast voluntary on that day, then to fast or to make up something which was obligatory would be more of priority for him. So if someone fasts voluntary or supererogatory, if he has a reason to fast and that he fasts regularly, so it is not permissible for anyone to fast on that day or the day of doubt, which is the night before the day before Ramadan, unless they have a regularly custom for acts of worship where they fast throughout the year. They don't miss those days, whether he fasts on a Monday or on a Thursday regularly, and it turned out to be on a Monday or on a Thursday. And it is sunnah for him, or it is not disliked for him or haram for him to fast on that day. If he is someone who fasts the whole of Rajab and Sha'ban, then it is not disliked for him to fast on the 30th day of Sha'ban. And then you just continue Rajab, Sha'ban, and Ramadan, and you wouldn't break his fast for any one of those days. So then there's another opinion where it is mentioned in the difference of opinion that it is, which is where it is unknown to exactly know what is the day of doubt. So the scholars would mention that there's a difference between fasting on the day of Eid, which is completely haram, and this one which is disliked due to the doubt of what embraces it. And there'll be some years where there is a day of doubt, and there'll be some days where there's not. This is all this is all if someone wants to single out fasting the 30th of Sha'ban. But if they continue to fast days before it, then it is permissible to fast with a consensus, or according to the consensus of the scholars, that if he is continuous in his fast and is not just singling out the last day of Sha'ban to fast, then it is fine for him to fast. Then it is okay for him to fast. And the dominant opinion is if someone fasts from the 15th onwards, that it is not permissible for someone to fast the last 15 days if he wants to single out fasting in those last 15 days. And there's another opinion where it says it's permissible, but it is disliked. And many of the scholars hold that position from the hadith, that if Sha'ban reaches 15, then you should not fast till the month of Ramadan. And one response to that would be, number one, is that hadith is not authentic or accepted by the people of hadith. And the second one is that it is that this gives them the strength, people their strength to fast in preparation for the month of Ramadan. And Habib says, Allah knows best, that this is what Imam Shafi'i sees as the authentic position, that after the 15th of Sha'ban, it is not permissible to fast the last 15 days of Sha'ban, except for someone who is continuous in their fast from the beginning of Sha'ban. And that then this is the ruling of the day of the doubt, the 30th day. So if he continues the fast before the 15th, whatever fast that he was doing, whenever he's fasting the whole month of Sha'ban, then he would not fall under those where it's impermissible for him to fast the last 15 days of Ramadan. Neither will it be impermissible for him to fast on the last day of Sha'ban, the last 15 days before Ramadan, and on the last day of Sha'ban. So the question here is, does it count though? If someone does fast, if he has vowed to fast, so to specify the 30th of the day of Shak to fast, it is impermissible to single it out without anything beforehand or any sort of anything beforehand. And inshallah, Habib mentions that we'll continue the rest of the books tomorrow, and he has requested that they recite the Qasida.
ماشي كما مجلس لا يجال الكدار ماشي كما مجلس لا يجال الكدار بالله غطرف على ذا الصوت يا أخو عمار صفى لنا شربنا يا بخت أبو من حضار هيا السرى نبغى المسرى بضوء القمر مسرى بضوء القمر هيا السرى نتبع أهلنا نغوص نقص الأثار نسير في ركبهم نمر من حيث مار يا ليلة النور كم من سر فيها ظهر فيها إشارة بدات والبحر فيها اعتبار والبحر فيها اعتبار صفت وراقت وكل النال منها الوطار معنا قناص رجعنا منها بالظفار من باي قاسم يجي معنا ومن فرفار بتنا على صفو ساعدنا القضاء والقدر ساعدنا القضاء يا حاضرين الصفا روع المواد بدار شلوا بالاصوات بالله لا تمل السمار يا ليلة الأنس كم من هج فيها هدار يا عين قري حبيب القلب معنا حضار معنا يا عين قري حبيب القلب معنا حضار كلين ياخذ ملا عينه فنور زخار